They call you the nice one, the person who never says no, the friend who's always there, smiling, agreeable, ready to help. On the surface, it looks like kindness, but underneath, there's something else. A silent exhaustion, a sense of emptiness, a quiet anger you never dare to show. What if being nice is not kindness at all, but a mask? What if your constant people-pleasing is actually your shadow in disguise? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." People-pleasing is one of the clearest examples of this truth. It looks harmless, even admirable. But in reality, it can be one of the most powerful ways the shadow hijacks your life. Think about it. How many times have you said yes when every part of you wanted to scream no? How many times have you swallowed your truth just to avoid conflict? How many times have you walked away from a situation smiling, only to feel resentful, drained, or invisible? Here's the paradox. The world may see you as good, but inside you feel disconnected, numb, estranged from yourself. And this is the hidden cost of being nice. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll see why people-pleasing is not just a bad habit, it's an unconscious survival strategy rooted in the shadow. You'll discover the subtle signs that reveal when your kindness is real and when it's simply a mask. And the final sign, the one most people miss, is the very reason people-pleasing keeps you trapped in a cycle of numbness. It's the one Jung himself would have warned you about. So let's name it clearly. People-pleasing is not the same as kindness. Real kindness flows from choice, from a steady and centered self. People-pleasing, on the other hand, often grows out of fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear that love will vanish if you dare to stand in your truth. Carl Jung described the shadow as the part of ourselves we repress, the traits, the emotions, the desires that don't fit the image we want the world to see. If you grew up in an environment where approval felt conditional, where love was tied to obedience or compliance, you quickly learned a rule: to be safe, I must please. You smiled when you didn't feel like smiling. You agreed when your heart disagreed. You shrank yourself so others could feel comfortable. With time, that became automatic. And here's the tragedy. The more you were praised for being easygoing or thoughtful, the more you lost touch with your own feelings. The shadow took those hidden emotions, anger, disappointment, desire, even joy, and buried them. What rose to the surface was the mask of the nice person. Why does this matter so much today? Because we live in a culture that rewards productivity, politeness, and fitting in. Social media magnifies it, the curated image, the agreeable opinion, the smile that never fades. But behind closed doors, there's burnout, there's resentment, there's a haunting emptiness. Because your real self has been locked away in the shadow's basement. Shadow work invites you to turn toward that basement instead of running from it. To ask yourself, whose approval am I really chasing? What emotions am I numbing every time I say yes against my will? What part of me has been silenced so long I can't even hear it anymore? And here's the important truth. Doing this work doesn't make you harsh or selfish. Quite the opposite. When you integrate the shadow of people-pleasing, you reclaim your voice, your boundaries, your vitality. You stop serving from guilt and start giving from authenticity. You stop saying yes out of fear and begin saying yes because it aligns with your soul. Jung believed wholeness is not achieved by pretending to be perfect, but by embracing the parts of us we've rejected. And people-pleasing is one of the most seductive rejections of all because it hides behind the illusion of virtue. So, on this journey, we're going to peel back the mask. We'll explore a story that shows how this shadow operates. We'll uncover the signs of hidden people-pleasing, and we'll see how to step out of numbness and back into real embodied kindness. But let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered why, after doing everything right, after being endlessly accommodating, you still feel unseen? Why the very people you sacrifice for so often take you for granted? That voice you hear, that's your shadow speaking, and it's time to listen. Imagine a stage play. At the front stands the nice one, always smiling, always agreeable, a flawless performer of harmony. The audience claps, the spotlight shines, and everyone praises the role. But behind the curtain, another figure waits the silent self, pacing in the shadows, unheard and unseen. This is the forgotten actor, forced off stage so the mask of niceness can keep the show alive. That's the life of a people-pleaser. You live as though the world is a stage, carefully rehearsing your lines, making sure no one boos, no one storms out, no one throws stones. The crowd may cheer, but the hidden actor, the real you, grows restless. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you cover it. It lingers, it whispers. It leaks out in resentment, in fatigue, in that strange numbness you can't quite explain. Think of Sarah, a woman in her 30s. At work, she's the dependable one, staying late, taking on extra projects, never complaining. With friends, she's the listener, always ready to cancel her own plans to help someone else. With family, she's the peacemaker, smoothing over conflicts before they even start. Everyone says, "Sarah is so nice." And she smiles, nods, and continues the performance. But late at night, when she lies awake, Sarah feels hollow. She no longer knows what she truly wants. She feels invisible, even in the relationships she gives so much to. Her body carries quiet tension, and sometimes she snaps in ways that surprise even herself. This isn't me, she thinks. But it is, it's the shadow, rising to remind her that the hidden self won't be ignored forever. Jung often pointed to dreams as windows into the shadow. Imagine Sarah dreams of standing in a crowded room, smiling politely while her mouth is sewn shut. She can't speak, but she keeps nodding, keeps smiling, trying to reassure everyone. Inside, though, a scream builds that no one hears. That dream isn't random, it's her unconscious, revealing the cost of silencing her truth. The shadow thrives in disguise, and people-pleasing is one of its most convincing costumes. It tricks you into believing you're virtuous, when in fact you're avoiding the very things that would set you free. Boundaries, honesty, the courage to risk disapproval. But here's the shift. Shadow work doesn't condemn Sarah for being nice. It asks her to listen to the forgotten actor behind the curtain, to the scream in her dream, to the fatigue in her bones. It asks, what truth are you swallowing every single day? What part of you is still waiting to come out from behind the curtain? The metaphor of the stage reminds us, life isn't meant to be a performance. It's meant to be lived, raw and real. And until the hidden actor is allowed to step forward, the play will always feel incomplete. So let me turn the mirror to you. Where in your life are you still performing niceness at the cost of your own aliveness? Let's get real for a moment. How do you know if your niceness is genuine kindness or if it's really your shadow at work? Here are a few signs that people-pleasing might be pulling the strings. First, you say yes when your whole body is begging you to say no. You hear a request, help with a project, attend an event, take on extra work, and before your mind even catches up, the word yes slips out. But inside, your chest sinks, your stomach tightens, your body protests. You override it anyway because somewhere deep down there's a whisper, if I refuse, they won't love me. Over time, this silences more than your no. It silences your authentic yes. And when you can't hear your real yes anymore, you drift into numbness. Next time you feel that automatic yes rising, pause. Take a slow breath and ask yourself, if I wasn't afraid of disappointing them, what would I honestly say? Even if you don't voice it, write it down. This is how you start hearing the voice you've buried. The second sign. You avoid conflict at all costs. You tell yourself you're being peaceful or diplomatic. But the truth is, disagreement terrifies you. Even a gentle, I see it differently, feels risky. So you nod, smile, and stay quiet. Inside, tension builds. What happens then? You project. You push your anger, your assertiveness into the shadow, and judge others for being too loud, too blunt, too confrontational. But maybe their honesty is the very quality your shadow is hiding from you. Remember this, conflict is not the opposite of love. Indifference Island real connection requires friction, honesty, and repair. Without that, relationships stay polite, but never real. If this sounds familiar, try journaling with a simple question. What am I most afraid will happen if I speak my truth? Often, the fear traces back to old punishments or rejections, not to your current reality. And here's the third sign. You feel invisible, even when you're surrounded by people. You show up, you give, you help. But somehow, when the conversation moves on, no one really sees you. They see your usefulness. They see your smile. But your essence? That part gets lost. The painful truth is, you've been hiding it. When you only present the agreeable mask, others never get to meet the full you. The shadow holds your fire, your depth, your uniqueness. Without it, you appear shallow even when you're not. If you felt that sting of invisibility, pause and reflect. In that moment, what part of me did I hide? This isn't about blaming others. It's about noticing how you keep yourself in the shadows. These 3 signs reveal the shadow's trick. It convinces you that being agreeable will keep you safe. But in reality, it keeps you small. It protects you from rejection, yes, but it also locks you out of intimacy, freedom, and self-respect. And here's the twist. The very qualities you're most afraid to show, your no, your anger, your truth, are the exact keys to becoming whole. Let's go a layer deeper. If those first signs showed you how people-pleasing appears on the surface, these next ones reveal the hidden mechanics, the quiet ways the shadow keeps you trapped. One of the clearest signs is when you give too much, then secretly resent it. At first, it feels good to say yes. You cook the meal, you cover the shift, you run the errand. But afterward, a quiet bitterness creeps in. Why doesn't anyone give back? Why am I always the one who sacrifices? This is the shadow's bargain. It teaches you that love must be earned through service. And no matter how much you give, it never feels like enough. You pour from an empty cup, hoping someone will finally notice your exhaustion. But more often than not, they don't. They've learned to believe the mask you present, that you're tireless, that you're fine, that you actually prefer it this way. The resentment you feel isn't selfishness. It's the shadow demanding that your needs be seen. Another sign. You confuse harmony with love. Many people, pleasers, believe that if there's no conflict, everything must be fine. But harmony isn't always love. Sometimes, harmony is silence. You may pride yourself on keeping things smooth, but if the connection exists only because you've erased your voice, it isn't intimacy, it's performance. Here's the paradox. In trying so hard to avoid conflict, you create a quiet war inside yourself. That inner war leaks out in passive aggression, in withdrawal, or in sudden eruptions that shock even you. Real love isn't about constant agreement, it's about honesty and repair. Without that, there's no depth, only surface. And then there's the most dangerous sign. You lose touch with what you want altogether. After years of bending yourself around others' needs, you no longer know your own. You can list what makes your partner happy, what your boss expects, what your friends prefer. But if someone asks, "What do you want?" you freeze. That's the numbness of the shadow. When your desires have been silenced long enough, you forget how to even feel them. And yet, they don't disappear. They wait beneath the surface, pressing for expression. That's why so many people-pleasers hit a breaking point later in life. Burnout, sudden anger, or a hollow sadness that no amount of approval can fill. It's the shadow knocking, saying, "Remember me, remember you." If this resonates, start small. Each morning, choose one simple thing you want just for yourself. Maybe it's 10 minutes of silence, a favorite meal, or a walk alone. Reclaiming desire begins with small, daily acts of listening. These deeper signs reveal the real cost of being nice: resentment, hollow harmony, and the loss of self. And here's the truth. No amount of approval will ever fill the emptiness left by abandoning yourself. But here's the good news. The moment you start reclaiming your shadow, the shift is profound. You remember your own wants. You discover the courage to risk friction for the sake of honesty. And you realize that love isn't built on compliance, it's built on truth. We've already uncovered 6 ways the shadow of people-pleasing sneaks into your life. Now let's look at the final lessons, the ones that move you from awareness into true integration. These aren't just warnings. They're invitations to step out of numbness and back into wholeness. One of the clearest traps is when you mistake exhaustion for virtue. Think about how often you've worn your tiredness like a badge of honor. I'm a good partner because I sacrifice. I'm a good employee because I push through. I'm a good friend because I never say no. But depletion is not proof of love. It's a sign that you've abandoned yourself. The shadow convinces you that burning out for others makes you worthy. But worthiness isn't earned by emptying yourself, it's reclaimed by honoring your limits. Take a moment to look back on 3 times you felt drained by helping someone. Ask yourself honestly, was that true generosity, or was I secretly hoping to be validated? That simple question cuts straight through the shadow's illusion. Another sign lies even deeper. You fear rejection more than you desire authenticity. At its core, people-pleasing isn't about kindness, it's about survival. Somewhere along the line, you learned that rejection meant danger, so you shape-shifted, accommodated, disappeared just to stay safe. But the truth is, the fear of rejection outside is really the fear of rejecting yourself inside. Every time you say yes to others but no to yourself, you are the one doing the abandoning. The shift comes when authenticity becomes more precious than approval, when the risk of being unseen feels lighter than the weight of silencing your truth. If you want to test this, try standing in front of a mirror and saying aloud, "I choose to be real, even if it costs me approval." Pay attention to what rises inside you: fear, grief, even relief. That's your shadow speaking. Don't push it down. Let it have a voice. And here's the key lesson of integration. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges. Many people-pleasers resist boundaries because they fear they'll seem selfish. But boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about making real connection possible. Without them, relationships collapse under resentment. With them, love can breathe. Boundaries draw the line between giving from guilt and giving from freedom. They transform niceness into true kindness, because what you offer comes from a whole self, not from a hollow shell. If you're ready to experiment, choose one small boundary this week. Maybe you decline a minor request. Maybe you tell a friend you need time alone. And afterward, notice not just the fear, but also the relief. That's the feeling of your nervous system, learning that boundaries don't destroy love, they create it. These final lessons reveal the truth. People-pleasing is not just a habit. It's an unconscious survival strategy the shadow uses to protect you. But safety without authenticity isn't safety at all, it's a prison. And when you finally reclaim your no, your limits, your needs, you don't become less loving. You become more alive. And that aliveness is what the shadow has been guarding all along, waiting for you to bring it back into the light. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." At first that might sound dramatic, but pause and really feel what it means. To accept yourself completely is to welcome not just your light, but also your shadow, the anger you hide, the selfishness you deny, the desires and needs you've buried under the mask of being nice. For the people-pleaser, this is the greatest fear, because to accept yourself means you can no longer live only for approval. It means some people may not like the real you. It means risking disapproval in order to reclaim authenticity. And for the part of you that learned survival depended on keeping everyone happy, that risk feels unbearable. Yet here's the paradox. Until you take that risk, you never fully live. You remain suspended in a half-life liked by many, but deeply known by few, including yourself. Jung believed the shadow is not an enemy, but a guide. By turning toward it, you discover the very qualities you need for wholeness. On a personal level, this work is about reclaiming your voice, your boundaries, your true desires, but it also reaches far beyond the individual. Entire cultures encourage people-pleasing. Obey authority. Don't rock the boat. Keep the peace at all costs. And when individuals silence themselves, societies grow numb. Integration, then, is not just personal, it's collective. When one person dares to live authentically, they give silent permission for others to do the same. Think about it. Every time you say yes out of fear, you add to a culture of inauthenticity, But every time you risk saying no from a place of truth, you create space for honesty to exist. The ripple effect is real. Your shadow work doesn't stop with you, it touches everyone around you. This is why Jung insisted that facing the shadow is not just for therapy rooms, it's for humanity. He saw the shadow not only in individuals, but in nations, in wars, in cultural breakdowns. The refusal to face our inner truth always spills outward. So here's the invitation. Can you see your niceness not as a virtue to cling to, but as a doorway into something deeper? Can you honor the part of you that longs to be real, even if it shakes the way others see you? Because in the end, people-pleasing isn't about being too kind, it's about being too afraid. And courage, Jung would say, doesn't come from erasing fear. It comes from walking with it into the unknown, into authenticity, into wholeness. So let's bring everything full circle. We began with the mask of niceness, the smile that never fades, the endless, yes, the quiet exhaustion behind polite words. At first glance, it looked like kindness, but now we see it for what it often is, the shadow in disguise, a survival strategy you built to feel safe, to avoid rejection. It may have protected you once, but today it leaves you numb, invisible, cut off from the truth of who you are. Think back to the signs we walk through. Saying yes when you mean no, avoiding conflict, feeling invisible, overgiving then resenting it, confusing harmony with love, forgetting what you want, wearing exhaustion like a badge, and fearing rejection more than authenticity. Each one is a thread in the web the shadow weaves. And maybe you recognized yourself in more than one. If you did, take a breath. That doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're human. Jung taught us that the path isn't about eliminating the shadow, but about integrating it. That means listening to the voice you've buried, honoring the anger you've hidden, reclaiming the desires you've neglected, and slowly, letting your no be just as sacred as your yes. When you do that, niceness transforms into true kindness, kindness rooted in authenticity, not fear. You begin to give freely, not compulsively. You begin to love honestly, not strategically. You begin to live as a whole person, not a half performance. And here's the deeper truth. The world doesn't need more nice people. The world needs more real people alive, awake, unafraid to show both their light and their shadow. Because only then can relationships deepen, communities heal, and you step into the wholeness you were always meant to embody. So let me leave you with a question. What's one small boundary, one honest truth, one authentic no you can claim this week? Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now. Every small act of authenticity is a step toward freedom. If what we've explored today resonated with you, share your reflections. Where have you seen the shadow of people-pleasing in your own life? What truths are you ready to reclaim? And if you want to keep walking this path, stay connected. Because this isn't just about psychology, it's about learning to live more fully, more honestly, more awake. Your shadow is not your enemy, it's your teacher. And the moment you stop numbing and start listening, you'll find that behind the mask of niceness waits the fullness of who you truly are.